Today, we're going to dive into Simon Sinek's really powerful idea, Start with Why. It's a concept that kind of challenges everything we think we know about how we communicate, how we lead, and, well, how we act. And we're going to start with a story.
So, picture this. It's a cold day in January. A 43-year-old guy is being sworn in as the new leader of his country. And right there beside him is his predecessor, a super famous general who, just 15 years earlier, had led the nation's army in a war that ended in Germany's defeat. Now, this new leader, he was raised in the Roman Catholic faith. After the ceremony, he spends 5 hours watching parades held in his honor. And then he stays up celebrating till 3 in the morning. Okay, so a picture is probably forming in your head right now, isn't it? When most people hear these specific details, they pretty confidently assume I'm talking about John F. Kennedy. But there's one really crucial piece of information that's missing. The date wasn't 1961. It was January 30th, 1933. And the man I'm describing is Adolf Hitler. Whoa. That single missing fact, it changes everything. And this is a brilliant illustration of a super dangerous trap we all fall into. We make decisions based on what we think we know. So this isn't just a random history lesson, right? It's about a fundamental truth of how we humans operate. We are totally governed by our assumptions and what we perceive to be true. We're constantly making choices based on an incomplete picture. Knowing that this is how our brains work, how do most companies and leaders try to influence our choices? Well, they lean on a pretty predictable and honestly kind of lazy toolkit that's designed to get us to act. You know this list. You see it every single day. Price drops, special offers, ads that play on your fears or your dreams, peer pressure. Sinek groups all of these under one simple, powerful label: manipulations. And here's the thing, they work, but there's a huge catch. So let's take price. If you drop the price low enough, sales are going to spike. Of course they will. But Sinek says it's like a drug. The short-term high feels fantastic, but you're just training your customers to only buy when there's a deal. You're destroying your margins and turning your brand into just another commodity. And it's the same deal with promotions. Think about the auto industry. They used cashback offers to drive sales like crazy. But what they really did was create a whole generation of buyers who now expect a deal. They basically killed the whole idea of full price, and loyalty went right out the window. And then you've got novelty. We confuse this with innovation all the time. Remember the Motorola Razr? It was a massive hit. It was so thin, so sleek, so exciting. It was the ultimate shiny new object, and it flew off the shelves. But it wasn't a real evolution, and pretty soon, Motorola got left in the dust. Okay, so here's the crucial point, the big takeaway from all this. Manipulations can absolutely drive a sale. For sure, they can get someone to buy something one time, but they don't inspire loyalty. They just create transactions, not true believers. And that is an exhausting and really expensive cycle to be trapped in. But Sinek proposes there's an alternative. There's a totally different way to think, to act, and to communicate that actually inspires action instead of just manipulating it. He calls it the golden circle. It's this beautifully simple idea. Just imagine 3 circles, one inside the other. In the very center, you have why. The next circle out is how. And the outer circle is what. And this isn't just some clever business school model. Sinek says it's a pattern that's grounded in the actual biology of how we make decisions. This way of communicating should sound super familiar. Most companies, and honestly most of us, we communicate from the outside in. We start by telling people what we do. We make great computers. Then we might tell them how we do it. They're beautifully designed and easy to use. And then we just expect to purchase. The why, the core purpose, the belief, is usually just an afterthought, if it even gets mentioned at all. But the inspiring leaders, the inspiring brands, they do the exact opposite. They communicate from the inside out. They start with why. And this tiny little shift leads to the core message of Sinek's entire philosophy. Look, if Apple communicated like everyone else, their ads would say, "We make great computers. They're beautifully designed. Want to buy one?" Meh. But instead, they start with why. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we do that is by making our products beautiful and simple to use. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? See the difference? It feels completely different. We're buying the cause, not just the computer. Now, here's where it gets really powerful. This isn't just a matter of opinion or some clever marketing trick. The true elegance of the golden circle is how perfectly it maps onto the human brain. Our outer brain, the neocortex, corresponds to the what level. It's the part that handles rational thought, all the facts and figures, and language. But those inner circles, the how and the why, they correspond to our limbic brain. And that's where all our feelings live, things like trust and loyalty. It's also the part of the brain that's responsible for all of our behavior and all of our decision-making. Now, here's the key: our limbic brain, the decision maker, has no capacity for language. This is where gut feelings come from. When we say something just feels right, we're not being irrational. We're listening to that powerful nonverbal part of our brain that really drives our choices. So when you communicate the why, you are literally talking directly to the part of the brain that makes the decisions. Okay, so this is all great in theory, but how do we actually make this practical? Well, Sinek offers a beautifully simple filter for making decisions that actually align with your purpose. He calls it the celery test. Imagine your personal why is to do things that are healthy, okay? So you go to the supermarket and people are giving you advice. Someone says, buy celery. Another says, buy rice milk. And a third says, you should totally buy these Oreo cookies. Which advice do you take? Well, if your why is clear, the decision is instant. You buy the celery and the rice milk. The Oreos, they don't pass the test. Simple as that. For a business, the celery is a new product that fits the mission perfectly, while the Oreos are just a profitable but off-brand distraction. So your why becomes your filter. It brings discipline and, more importantly, consistency to every single choice you make. When every product you launch, every person you hire, every partnership you make, when they all align with your why, you're not just selling things anymore. You're proving what you believe. And that is how you build unshakable trust and loyalty. Because at the end of the day, what makes a leader or a company truly stand out isn't having a few more features or a slightly lower price. True, lasting differentiation comes from being crystal clear on why you exist, and then having the discipline to make sure that how you do things and what you ultimately do consistently proves it to the world. So, this all brings us to one final and really important question. These principles, this whole idea of starting with why, it doesn't just apply to big companies. It applies to each and every one of us, in our careers and in our lives. We all have a why, a purpose, a cause, a belief that drives us. The only question left is, do you know yours? And can you put it into words?